I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years. Bring gas.
Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
He is the sports dad, Judd Zulgad. I am Phil Mackey, and we are here to talk about the Timberwolves, your favorite basketball team. It may be the dead of the offseason for the NBA, but we have Olympic basketball. We have Wolves in the Olympics. All played their first game over the weekend.
Plenty of basketball, yeah. There's just no dearth of basketball.
It's great, man. You can watch Joe Ingles play for 2.5 minutes for Team Australia. Jinglin' Joe. So I actually have sort of, I don't know if it's like a take or if it's just an observation. I want to put something into context for you in the audience, and you can tell me if I'm just crazy talk here regarding Anthony Edwards on this Olympic team.
Sure.
But today is the first day of our annual Power of Sports auction benefiting the Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute. So all we ask is that you go check out skornorth.com/auction, where we have several great experiences to just buy or to bid on throughout the week, with the goal being to raise at least $15,000 for the Courage Kenny Rehab Institute, which works with children and adults who experience life-altering injuries and disabilities. They offer a full range of innovative rehab therapy covering physical, occupational, and speech therapy to help people get on track as much as possible. And also from a sports standpoint, last year, 500-plus athletes participated in the adaptive sports and recreation programs at Courage Kenny. And so we're looking to raise as much money as we can. On the Timberwolves front, for you Flagrant Howls listeners, we have available to bid on right now, it's four lower bowl tickets to a Wolves game in 2023 and a signed Anthony Edwards jersey, plus dinner at Red Rabbit. Whew. So that's a pretty cool package. Also, dinner with the Purple Daily Crew, executive balcony tickets and Champions Club experiences for Twins games. There's Aerosmith Suite VIP tickets. Come hang out with me at an Aerosmith concert, and so much more over at skornorth.com/auction.
Steven Tyler. Can you still hit the high notes?
I saw Aerosmith 4 or 5 years ago. It was like 2019 at Park MGM in Vegas. Mm-hmm. Every high note crushed.
Really?
Still. Yeah. Like Dream On high notes, even full on, no lip syncing.
Bon Jovi can't do that on his songs, and he's how old? 60s?
He's younger than Steven Tyler.
Yeah, that's impressive. Steven Tyler,
cooks.
Mick Jagger, and Keith Richards defy being human.
It's crazy. I don't know what kind of drugs they were taking that landed them in their mid 70s, still able to function at a high level, but.
Mick's 81.
That's crazy.
And he's still performing.
Yeah. So skornorth.com/auction, help us out this week. So Team USA plays their first official Olympic game yesterday. It looked really bad initially. They were down 10-2 against Serbia, led by Nikola Jokic, obviously. And Steve Kerr calls a timeout. It looked like they were just kind of too cool for schooling it the first minute or two, just kind of like an all-star game or something.
Yeah.
Even LeBron was throwing some just like dumb, lazy passes early on. Steve Kerr calls a timeout, subs out Joel Embiid, who is infuriating to watch play basketball, whether he's wearing a Sixers uniform or whether he's wearing a Team USA uniform.
Yep.
So they take him out, they put Anthony Davis in, and then eventually they bring in Kevin Durant to hit his first 8 shots. Anthony Edwards subbed in a few minutes later. They go on a 30-11 run to just take this game over. They were up by 22 or 23 in the fourth quarter. I think they won the game. I don't have the score in front of me, but like 23 points. Point differential does matter in pool play for a tiebreaker. So you see Steph Curry like launching threes to build a 15-point lead up to 18. But Anthony Edwards checks in for his first actual Olympic, non-exhibition Olympic playing time. Checks in immediately on the first defensive possession, blocks a guy at the rim, grabs his own rebound, fires an outlet pass, sparks a fast break and one. Couple possessions later on offense, so Kevin Durant hits a 3. Anthony Edwards then on the next possession hits a 3, and him and Kevin Durant have their own little handshake, and it was just a blast to watch. So, yeah, he winds up with 11 points, 9 in the first half, but I want to run this by you. I just want to put something into context for a second. the Anthony Edwards Olympic experience. So a lot of people who've watched USA basketball going back to the original Dream Team in 1992, a lot of like smart basketball media people are comparing the talent on this roster to the 1992 Dream Team. Now, the world was not as good at basketball, so that team was beating everyone by 50 points. And now you have guys like Giannis on Team Greece, and
the world's really
like
good,
the French. Yeah, the French team has like Wemby and Gobert.
It's all first-round draft picks.
Yeah, it's wild, 100%. So, but just in terms of talent on this year's team, a lot of smart people are saying, boy, with LeBron, Durant, Steph Curry, these are like top 10 to 15 players all time. And then you've got Anthony Davis and a young Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
The NBA's assist leader, Tyrese Halliburton, didn't play a minute in that game yesterday, like out of the rotation. Jason Tatum was the best player on the best team that won the championship. He's been bumped from the rotation.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to have like the 92 team versus this team debate, but there's like, let's say 92 talent. There's a strong case to be made that this is the second most talented basketball team that the USA has ever put out. Like,
yeah.
Would you fight that just on the surface?
I'd have to go back and look at teams, but no. And look, I mean, the Dream Team was a lot of things. One, it was the first time that had been done. And so they gathered up every all-star possible back then. To your point, the world was not as good at basketball. Also, back then, the media landscape was different. I mean, I remember a couple of those Dream Team exhibition games being on TV, and like it was appointment TV. You were going to watch. So, I mean, the world is just a very different place. What I find to be so intriguing about the playing time, and this is true in international sports like this across the board, is when you put together these teams, the importance of guys allowing themselves to be fit into roles and off the bench, which I'm sure he's fine with, right? But like you think about,
there's two Celtics role players in the rotation ahead of Jason Tatum, which is interesting.
Exactly. But if you're Tatum, and I'm sure he's not happy about it, but if you're Kerr and you're part of the board that makes up these teams, you also have to be very sure that the people that you take are willing, unless they're going to be star players, that they are willing to fit roles. But they're superstars. Like, if that's sort of what makes this fun, is who doesn't play, who plays a little bit, whose role is totally different than clearly that role would be on his team ordinarily, right? Mm-hmm. Like, here's my question now, because I could see him not taking it well and it being a little bit of a problem. Embiid. Okay, they took him out and they got better, and now Embiid started that game. Like, this is all.
He should not be. He should, quite frankly, he should not be playing. He should not be playing ahead of Anthony Davis under any circumstances in these.
But Olympics. Did they start him because they think he would be better, or did they start him because he can't check his ego and now he's going to have to? Like, you think about the politics here, right? And like a guy like Ant is great because he's young, enthusiastic, and will probably do whatever the hell you ask. But that's incredibly important. And so that's what I find to be so intriguing about like taking a collection of all-stars and making sure that you have the right ones with the right mentality, because not everyone could do this.
But isn't it crazy, like, just to put a bow on this roster discussion, that we might be watching the second most talented Team USA basketball collection ever behind 1992, which means it's the second most talented team in world history, right? Like, Team USA has had the best team for 30 years. And Anthony Edwards is firmly one of their best rotation players.
Yeah.
He was like 5th or 6th in minutes yesterday. He comes in, he's like a plus 15? Like a plus, he's a plus 16 in 19 minutes, which is the 4th best plus minus.
Yes.
And during the exhibition games before the first official pool play game, he was the second leading scorer on, again, the second most talented Team USA in the history since they started letting NBA players in. Like, the fact that he belongs firmly, squarely in this company is such an amazing development for this franchise over the past couple of years.
But after what we saw from him in the course of the past season, it's not a surprise.
No, he comfortably belongs in this.
Yes, and despite the fact they got eliminated in the playoffs by Dallas, Phil, I did think that in those first 2 rounds, he checked some boxes where you said, yeah, he's a superstar. He's really good. How good? Well, we'll find out against Durant and the Suns and Booker, right? The Wolves win pretty convincingly. Okay, now it's Denver. How's that going to go? Like those 2 series in particular to me make this success and this fact that he fits into an instrumental part in this team really not surprising, because he checked boxes to say he's going to be he's a transcendent player, has that ability.
Yeah. And it's like you watch him playing off LeBron, you watch the way that's like Steph Curry loves him. The way that there was one play where the video clip was, I had it out there on my Twitter for a while, but like the Olympic Committee has just an army of social media sleuthers that pull down these video clips.
You can't put up video clips and you can't show highlights on sports shows unless there's a certain amount approved. It's incredible.
It's wild.
They are.
Like, wouldn't you want your stuff out there, snackable,
They're very behind
so
the
people
times.
tune in?
They're very behind the times.
But he gets the ball sort of left baseline, and he's doing a little shake and bake.
Yeah.
And he does that little, like, he does the spin move step through and just puts this dude in a blender. And and now they're up by 20 points, whatever, fourth quarter. And he's running down the court doing the blender sign, and Steph Curry is just geeking out on the bench like, yeah, put him in a blender. And Steph Curry bringing over the ping pong team.
Yes, that was awesome. This guy great clip.
Ant thinks he can score a point off you guys, you know? Like, I don't know. There's just something
and Ant
about...
looks 15. In that clip, he's dressed nice. He looks like he's 15. It's great.
Button-up shirt.
Is Ant... Here's a question for you. Is Anthony Edwards the modern day... and I'll explain in a second, Kobe type, personality type, or Jordan? Now, those guys did not really socialize. They hated their opponents. But we're in an era now where that's not the case. Like if you said, well, he should be more like Jordan. Well, as far as personality goes, most of these guys aren't, okay? But I think it's interesting because he also does a marvelous job. Like you could tell he loves Durant. He like idolizes him. And he's gone to school on him, which I appreciate. But when he's on the floor, he's a stone cold basketball killer. Because I don't think that you can compare him to Jordan personality wise, because I don't know that Jordan type of just, I'm going to kill you, like, and I won't talk to you. I don't know that those people exist as much now because it's a different era.
He has a much more playful personality, certainly, than Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe had like 9% playful to us. He could be playful sometimes. I think once his career was over and now it's like he's got kids and he became a much lighter version of Kobe. Jordan had some playful, but it was kind of like an alpha. He had it was playful in that he was like clowning people, and it was more from an ego standpoint. But aesthetically on the court, Anthony Edwards' game has that old school 90s, early 2000s mid-range. He'll bank a turnaround mid-range shot. He added that to his bag last year. Mm-hmm. He'll post up, put you in the spin cycle. So I think just aesthetically on the court, he does have there's some Kobe, and I mean the Michael Jordan comparisons ran rampant last season.
But that's what I'm saying is personality-wise on the floor, I think that comp works. I don't think off the floor that the majority of players today are geared like that. So I think the expectation that Ant should not talk, Ant is popular.
I'm trying to think of like which player in the last 20 or 30 years, like which player from Team USA back in the 90s, when you take that fun-loving, goofy, a little bit immature side of his personality, he's kind of got some Shaq. Like Shaq was in movies, Shaq was in commercials. Shaq was kind of a goofball, but then when it came down to it, and it's the heat of the playoffs, Shaq was a monster, and Shaq would fight you. Like Shaq would get in literal fights on the court, and he could kind of toggle back and forth. I know it's weird that I'm comparing Anthony Edwards to Shaq, a 7'4" monster.
Yeah, but personality,
but
yes.
They both had the ability to lock it in, be the best player on the court, demand excellence, but then they also, off the court and even on the court too, had this bright, shining, marketable personality. Yeah, like that's what I would say. It's almost like Shaq and Kobe, game and personality blended together in a way, and you get Anthony Edwards, 23 years old. I
think that's perfect. Yeah, because Shaq was, and I don't know if I mean, Shaq was goofy. I don't know. It feels like Ant is really just loved, but then he gets on the court and it's competitive. It's like this.
It's got some Barkley to him too, like just a little.
Oh, he definitely does. But in my opinion, from watching him, Ant is the best of what you can expect from, to coin this term, the AAU generation, where everyone is played on teams together at times. They all know, like, I don't think Ant is ever going to have his Isaiah Thomas, a fellow superstar who he hates. And like there's a back and forth with Ant has too much Puckett to him, but he's got the same desire to bury you in games that Puckett had for the Twins.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting to see who will be Anthony Edwards' main rival. Is it going to be Luka? Because age-wise, they line up in the Western Conference. Although maybe they're not both going to be in the Western Conference.
I thought you were transitioning beautifully.
We should transition to that. I do want to update, just if people weren't sitting around on Saturday watching like Canada play Greece or France beat Brazil. I was. Timberwolves Olympic update. So France beat Brazil 78-66 on Saturday. Rudy started. Wemby was the real star. I mean, Wemby's going to be the machine for that team. But Rudy had 7 points, 3 boards, couple of blocks in 18 minutes.
Playing time? 18. Okay.
18 minutes. Yeah.
That's not too bad.
What would you like to see Rudy at?
Well, 0. I'd like
zero.
I'd like to see him at home, but that's and these games are 40-minute games, correct?
10-minute quarters. Yep.
10-minute quarters. Okay.
So he played 18 minutes out of 40.
All right.
You'll like that Joe Ingles is basically in France as a spectator. He played 2 minutes for Australia, who beat Spain 92-80. 2 minutes, no statistics logged. You got Josh Giddey. You got some younger players that are kind of carrying the load for Team Australia.
Josh Giddey in the Olympic Village. My head hurts.
Be careful.
Well,
oh my God.
They're trying to cut down, They're trying to preclude athletes from, but I don't think.
So many jokes.
I don't think they're going to be.
Keep them away from.
Yeah.
And then Canada beat Greece 86-79. Nickeil Alexander-Walker struggled a bit. 12 minutes logged off the bench, 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. Did not log a stat, actually. He was a -10. But Canada, very formidable. They're playing for a medal. France should be playing for a medal. And then there's a couple other interesting teams. Giannis, Team Greece lost in that game to Canada. Giannis scored 34 of his team's 79 points. It's Giannis and a bunch of random multi-syllable players that are having a hard time.
If I'm the Bucks, I hate this.
Yeah, what do you say, though? Like, these guys want
No,
to
I
play
mean,
for
that's
their
what I'm saying. I
country,
just hate it.
Like,
I don't think there's much you can do, but I just hate it.
He's kind of at that point where Greece isn't going to win the gold, and you're old enough where you should probably
and you get
your
hurt.
legs. Yeah.
And you get hurt. So,
for Ant, this is a great experience. It's iron sharpening iron. It's making him better. He's young enough.
This is worth any risk he's taking because it's going to establish him more. And he's also, I think, going to come out of this being around guys like Durant and Steph even hungrier. Dude, I don't see that. I'm very particular about guys I don't want playing. In Ant's case, it's a good idea.
Ant and Durant playing off each other was incredible to watch. Just unstoppable offense coming from both sides of the wing.
It could never happen here, though. So.
Oh, man.
And Ant, you know how bad... I don't care what he says about Cat. Do you know how bad he wants that? That's his hero.
If you went to him and said, the only way we can make this happen is a 3-way trade, Carl goes over here, Durant comes here, and then the other team gets prospects. I think Ant loves Carl, but
yeah,
hey, you can play a year or two with your idol Kevin Durant. Look how much fun you guys had in the Olympics.
And I think Durant has fun playing with Ant.
Oh yeah.
I think he likes it. I think Durant is sort of at times bored. He's really, really good. He's phenomenal. But I think at times he's sort of bored and not challenged necessarily. And I think the byplay of Ant and him would be a breath of veteran fresh air.
And Durant's, he's a different breed because he's not really a leader. He's just a silent assassin who's going to give you 28, 30 points. But he's not going to he doesn't want to take control of the franchise. And that was kind of an issue in Brooklyn. he needs to sort of blend in, just be the easy money sniper, but behind someone else who's the alpha. And I don't think it's going to happen at this point. We did broach it as a reckless speculation subject later part of June, but
Tim Conley, I guarantee you, is watching these games. In fact, I bet he's in France.
yeah, the Wolves do have a contingent out
I
there.
bet he's
friends.
there. I bet he's there watching, and I bet they're saying the same exact thing. Wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah. Let's do a quick realignment discussion here. After we shout out our guy Finch. We love our guy Finch on this
Finch
show.
is great.
Chris Finch, yes, but we're talking about Finch Home Solutions.
Yep. And there, if you are watching this right now, you see the vans leaving for a long day of work. They are going to take care of your home when it comes to any electrical needs. I'm talking a laundry list. Cody Finch and his crew love two things. They love the purple, and they love to make sure that your home is safe and sound. All types of projects, electrical repairs, indoor lighting, car chargers, panel replacement. It's getting towards fall. I'm not saying it's fall yet, but guess what? Fall is a great time to install that hot tub, and Finch Home Solutions can do all of the electrical work behind the scenes to make sure that your hot tub is up and running. Offering now $250 off on electrical panel as well. 612-357-2604 or finchhomesolutions.com. An easy to navigate website and a crew that is fast, courteous, professional. finchhomesolutions.com. Be like Sports Dad and make sure that they're in your home. If you have any electrical needs, they'll take care of them.
So there's been some little rumblings. The latest one from a few days ago from Evan Sidery on Twitter here, who said, with the NBA set to discuss potential expansion within the next few months, now that their TV deal, it's always been sort of get the TV deal done, and then the expansion discussion can start.
Yep.
Conference realignment will become a discussion point. Las Vegas and Seattle are the heavy favorites. You'd probably want to expand with an even number, so you're not going to just add one team. You would just put them both out there. Mm-hmm. Seattle, I was out there living for 2 years. They just completely redid what's now Climate Pledge Arena. It's a beautiful place where the Kraken play, and it was the old arena location where the Sonics played, and it's just like one of the most state-of-the-art redone arenas in the league now. So they're ready to put a team in there. Las Vegas obviously has already added NFL. They've had the Aces out there, WNBA. So they're ready to go. Like the arenas are built. It's kind of turnkey for both those cities right now. But that would mean that one team from the West would have to be moved over to the Eastern Conference. So you have 15 teams in each conference right now. You'd add Seattle and Vegas. You'd then have 17 Western Conference teams and 15 East. So to balance the math, we'd have to send one team from the West over to the East. And Evan says the Grizzlies, Pelicans, and Timberwolves become the most realistic options to relocate from the West to the Eastern Conference.
Yep.
So Memphis and New Orleans are actually geographically the easternmost Western Conference teams if you just look on like the longitude plot lines.
Right.
But geographically, if you look at the way that the NBA map is set up, the Timberwolves' closest geographical Western Conference opponent is 4 states away.
Yes.
Oklahoma City is the closest Western Conference opponent for the Timberwolves. I mean, they're in a division with Portland, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. So you could, I know that they're not the most Eastern facing team, but you could keep the Memphis, New Orleans, Houston, Dallas, Oklahoma City, San Antonio's down there. Like they all kind of fit well together in that southern corridor. And you could slide the Wolves into a division with Milwaukee, Chicago, Cleveland, just like the baseball division, really, except Milwaukee's in the National League. Mm-hmm. Indiana's down there, Detroit. So what do you think? Would you approve Timberwolves as an Eastern Conference team in a couple of years?
Absolutely. I love this. In fact, I've been calling for this to try to get Chicago and the Bucks in your division and conference for quite some time. So I think that this would be great. Now, the one thing is the NBA, and it's smart, doesn't really rely on divisions, it's conferences. Like the standings in the paper or on websites, the first thing is the conference because it's the top 8 teams that go to the playoffs. But that being said, yes, I love this. And I think what would be great fun eventually is if you played the Bucks or Bulls in the playoffs, which would be probable at some point then. And that's where, in sports, especially hockey and basketball, rivalries, in my opinion, are born from playoffs. Like there's the animosity there, and the Bucks. I mean,
We can
fans
get
could
geography
travel,
and playoffs all in one. Now you have
and
big
fans
time
could
rivalry.
travel back and forth. I mean, the Bucks. How much fun!
Oh my
Because
gosh.
it makes so much sense. So Memphis, New Orleans, and Minnesota are all in the central time zones, but I'm with you. I feel like the Pelicans and the Grizzlies sort of have a pretty good area of the country down there with close enough teams from the Western Conference. I've always thought if you could really get, in particular, a Wolves Bucks rivalry going through playoff matchups, it would be great fun. So I am all in favor of this move.
It's weird to think about because the Wolves they've always played out west. They've always had to travel like the most miles, Clippers
Right.
and Portland and Lakers and stuff.
Right.
In baseball, if you're a Twins fan who also happens to be a Wolves fan, obviously, in football too, like Minnesota Vikings in same division as Chicago Bears, as Detroit Lions, it's normalized.
Yep.
As the Milwaukee team, which is the Green Bay Packers. In baseball, same division with the White Sox, with Cleveland. But it's weird to think about with basketball that they maybe be in the same division as like the Cavaliers or the Bucks or the Bulls. But yes. And after like a year or two of it being weird, it would become natural. You'd be able to road trip, like you said, weekend trips to games, or you could go, they play the Bucks on a Thursday night or the Bulls on a Thursday night. Go do a Chicago week if you're a Wolves fan. You're like Wolves fans aren't planning like trips to Portland as much, or maybe LA
They go
once
to
in a while.
Denver and stuff, but yes.
But the way that Twins and
point's well
Vikings
taken.
fans literally will plot out, oh, this is great. I can go see Monday Night Football against the Packers on this date and make a weekend out of it.
And if you got a playoff series in the conference with the Bucks, it's 2-2, 1-1-1. Well, if it started here, Bucks fans could come here for games 1 and 2. Wolves fans could go there for games
It'd be
3
wild.
and 4. And I do think it would build up. I don't know that Timberwolves have ever really, Denver perhaps at one point a little bit. I don't know that they're, because the geography doesn't really work. I don't know if the Wolves have ever had teams that you absolutely hate.
Yeah,
or
it's weird.
That
It's
you
weird
feel
to-
that are like your rival. I mean, who is
Oklahoma
the Wolves' rival?
City, like, I don't
Denver?
know. It's Denver.
Yeah. But I mean, the Bucks to me, the Bulls, if the Bulls someday get good again, I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating. There's just something weird about being in the same division as Portland and Denver, like these Western Rocky Mountains and West, like the Jazz. Like, why are you in the same division as the Jazz? It's just
And
weird.
if you can curtail some of these late starts,
That's another thing.
that's awesome.
You'd
better.
be swapping out. Think about the 4 times you play the Clippers, for instance.
Yeah.
Well, 2 of them are on the road, and 1 of them is going to be off the books because you'd only play them twice then, in place of like an Eastern Conference opponent.
Correct.
So you'd be swapping out a bunch of these like 9, 9:30, 9:45 start times for 6, 6:30, some 7 o'clocks. So it'd just be better to watch games without having to stay up till midnight or 12:30. I'm in.
I'd love
man.
this.
So we'll see where this goes. But yeah, Las Vegas and Seattle are almost certainly going to be the next 2 teams to make 32 teams in the NBA.
So is this within 3 years, 5 years?
I don't know for sure, but people were saying get the TV deal done, and then it becomes within the next like 12 months, it becomes a discussion. And then you have to figure out, okay, how much time do they need to relaunch? I mean, the Sonics already have all their, I'm sure like they're just going to bring back Sonics branding. It wouldn't take that long to design a logo or come up with a
better
team
be the
name.
Sonics.
Vegas, we have to figure out what their name is and what their logo is. But I think it would all happen like within 3 years, you would have the teams actually playing basketball. Maybe 2.
Within 2, the expansion draft would be super intriguing because the Wolves would probably lose a really good player.
Yeah, what we haven't had an expansion draft. Was it was it the Bobcats?
And hockey has
The
set
Bobcats.
Yeah, and the Bobcats, by the way, terrible name. Thank God that the Pelicans became the Pelicans, so the Bobcats could take the Hornets name back. But we saw in hockey, because the expansion fees now are so huge. Like, go back and look. the Wolves expansion fee, it was a lot, but it was not huge. What they did in hockey was they made the expansion drafts to have the ability to make you competitive immediately.
Yeah.
And I think basketball, because basketball is not going to go cheap here. I bet you that they would promise your team will be competitive. So like the Sonics would have an interesting choice, or Vegas from the Wolves roster.
I'm looking at, I just pulled up the 2004 NBA expansion draft. I don't think the Wolves lost any players, but boy, it's a hodgepodge, man. Gerald Wallace, I think, was maybe the best player on that team.
The Wolves expansion draft, when they came into the league, Rick Mahorn, who refused to play here.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, those expansion drafts. I mean, you were going to be crappy. Now, I'm
Jason
not so sure.
Capono, Richie Fromm.
Yeah.
Man. Maurice Carter. Yeah, this was Lauren Woods. Lauren Woods got selected by the Bobcats in 2004.
That's all you
Former
need to
Wolves
know right
second
there.
round pick, man. Marcus Pfizer. So, all right, yeah, let us know.
Good college player.
2 things for the YouTube commenters, or if you want to hit us up on Twitter/X. Which former, like, combinations of former NBA players? I mean, Dwayne Wade's another one. Like, Dwayne Wade with the Tom Crean connection, he was on the Olympic broadcast, raves about him. But as a player and a personality, I kind of said Shaq and Kobe mixed together. And then would you want to see the Wolves move to the Eastern Conference? Hit us up. Kyle's back in the mix later this week for his episode of Flagrant Howls here. He's the sports dad, Judd Zulgad. I am Phil Mackey, and this is a Timberwolves Lifestyle Podcast.